Wind Shear is the best leveling build, especially if you do not have any uniques. It's incredibly powerful, where you can carry a 4-man group by yourself into dungeons 20-40 levels higher than yourself. It's very easy to set up as it does not require the uniques, and also very overpowered in terms of damage, and survivability is virtually unkillable. Let's go over the build and how it works. There might be some bugs that make the build do too much damage. We're gonna talk about them. We're also gonna talk about how to scale the damage of the build, because it does not scale the damage the same way that another build would regularly scale the damage. You can also just copy the build and you're gonna be fine. We're gonna start by talking about the skill tree for the build, where we're gonna discover the first secret of Wind Shear, which is levels to Wind Shear will not increase the damage. So you're gonna have 1 point up in Fierce Wind Shear to increase the move speed. This build is pretty much move speed capped, even without having good rolls, uniques, etc. I am playing Pulverize, which is a change from my build that I have on the planner, but I will make this change now and adapt the planner for this. I like this instead of playing Trample. I have not found Trample to be very useful, but neither I have Petrify, because the critical strike damage from Petrify does not really apply to your Wind Shear, as the dot is not a crit. So either playing Trample or playing with Petrify is a good choice. We take the damage reduction from Primal Pulverize. I like the skill. It helps me keep up the buff of Iron 4, and also at the same time I can keep up Heightened Senses and Quick Shift for more damage and more defense. Other than that, we'll be taking a lot of points in our passives, but only 1 point in crit chance, as we do not crit. We go for 5 points in Cyclone Armor later on, because it's a damage reduction, and we really need damage reduction, as damage has been increased, but the defenses have been reduced in this game. Vigilance, Ancestral Fortitude, Blood Owl with attack speed, and the B-Roar with the preserving debilitating roar for the healing. It's not bad. I take 1 point for the slow and neurotoxin. I take Resonance, Natural Disaster, and Defiance. I take 3 points in Unrestrained, as I'm not running Trample. I've not had issue with CC, I have to say. And lastly, I take Instant Strength, which gives me both HP and damage, which is very strong. You could run Bastard Rampage and try to cycle Blood Howl and Pulverize, and you get more damage and more attack speed, but it is quite annoying to play for a casual leveling experience. Wariness have been buffed, 15% damage reduction. We take HP and we take attack speed. We top that off with Bolster for Fortified Generation, and we take Calm Before the Storm, because there is not really much to take on the Snake Boon. In terms of Paragon, you can use the same one that is on the website, and it will work just fine. For the first glyph, I suggest to put Tracker or Territorial, depending which one you want to start. Tracker is better for bosses. It adds duration to the dot, so you have 40% more damage coming from your dot. Actually, I actually believe that Tracker is not being buffed, that the poisoning duration is still 30%, but pretty much it only makes your dot last longer, which is really not necessary, because 4 seconds and the amount of damage that it does with just one Wind Shear is enough to kill on any elites and even on bosses. So I don't really notice much of a difference with Tracker. If bosses or mobs had more HP and you were pushing pits and mobs died slower than 4 seconds, then it would make sense to run Tracker. But it's not been a big deal for me. So I would do Territorial as my first glyph, honestly. But other than that, you can follow the glyph like they are on the website, or you can try to use this leveling setup, which I have like Human in my second board, which is Constricting Tendrils. Then I have Tracker in Thunderstruck instead of getting Thunderstruck as my first board. But Thunderstruck as your first board is gonna enable you to get the Thunderstruck buff, which gives you the 109% damage bonus. In my case, it can go up to 200 or more. Then I'm taking Bane in Inner Beast, and I'll be taking Heightened Malice here. And that's pretty much gonna be my leveling setup for this build. If you have your glyphs leveled up and you're a higher level, you can use the Paragon board on the website, which is more optimized for late game. But this one for leveling, in my opinion, is top tier. Let's talk about the gear that I have and how well geared I am. Not much, honestly. I don't have anything. I did find a pair of Yen's Blessing, which is quite okay because it will help you cast more Debi Roar and Blood Owl, but it's really not necessary in my opinion. So let's go over how the damage scale for this build, which is really the most important part. The most important thing you need to know is that wind shear damage scales based off two things, not one. The first one is the item level of your amulet, which is where you're gonna be imprinting your wind shear. And the second one is the item level of your weapon, which is extremely weird. So it's scaling twice, both from weapon and from the item level of your necklace. Where are we gonna get the Calm Breeze aspect? If you don't know, by the way, just quick, it's a dungeon that you can find in Dry Steppe, and I believe it's a dungeon in Dry Steppe. Does it say which one it is? Grinning Labyrinth. So this is it, it's a Grinning Labyrinth. Come here, get your aspect right away, and then you can play the build, no problem. Remember to, whenever you get Ancestral and Sacred Amulet, to right away re-enchant your amulet. In terms of aspects, we are very generous with our multiplier, because we can have Moonrise on a two-handed weapon, which can go up to 160% damage multiplier. And we also play with Adaptability, which can go up to 80%. So really, we get two 80% multipliers. One of them can be buffed to 160% with two-handed weapon. I'm using Rapid for attack speed on my ring, and I'm using also Changeling for more damage against card-controlled enemies. But honestly, if I could have an Arida's Inexorable Will, I will definitely play that, because we are lacking some ability to pull enemies, or a Godslayer, but I've not found any of that. In terms of defensive aspect, Juggernaut, I would suggest to use it, and I also suggest to use Might. Try to change your gear whenever you go from normal gear to Sacred, and Sacred to Ancestral. We do not need any crit chance for this build, so it's only like attack speed, willpower, and then try to use damage to close, damage to distant enemies rolls. Damage to distant is better, but if you get damage to close in your tempering, don't go crazy and try to reroll it. It's okay, keep damage to close. Here I have Wind Shear, projectile cast twice, which is very overpowered. If you can get this one to 65% would be great. I'm 55, I don't really try to get a better one. It's okay the way it is. It's a very strong build, guys, and it's gonna serve you very well till you can get your Tempest Roar and then play Tornado. It's been a very fun leveling experience. It's better than playing Pulverize, and I have not struggled in the least in playing the game while leveling this season. It can clean everything by itself. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Let me know what you think about the build, and if you have any question, leave them down in the comment.